All right, let's get straight into this explainer. We're looking at the absolute bleeding edge, where artificial intelligence collides with energy grids and what is rapidly shaping up to be a record-breaking infrastructure mega project in Europe. If you've been tracking where the big money in AI compute is flowing lately, you already know physical infrastructure is the ultimate bottleneck. Well, today we're unpacking a project so incredibly massive, it's designed to shatter that bottleneck entirely. Look at this number. Because the industry has a serious problem, and it all boils down to this single glaring figure: under 8%. That is the vacancy rate for data center space in Europe's traditional tech hubs. We're talking about the FLAPD markets: Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, Paris, and Dublin. They are completely tapped out. The physical room required to house the servers powering our modern digital world is essentially gone in these major cities.
And here is where it turns into a paralyzing, invisible crisis. On one side of the equation, you've got enterprises trying to build out capacity in these legacy hubs, facing crippling wait times. We're talking literal 18 to 36-month delays just to get permission to plug into the local power grid. But on the flip side, the demand to run new hyper-advanced AI models is explosive, and it's immediate. You simply cannot sit around for 3 years waiting for power when AI models are advancing by the month. So how is the market actually attempting to solve this gridlock? In this explainer, we're going to break down this unprecedented project by looking at Europe's AI power crisis, the 50 billion euro solution, why they chose Croatia, how you power a gigawatt monster, the underlying financial anatomy, and finally, what the next decade of AI is going to look like.
Kicking things off with Europe's AI power crisis and the breaking point of those legacy hubs.
If we rewind a bit from 2015 to 2019, those classic FLAP hubs easily soaked up all the standard cloud computing growth. But then, a massive shift happened in 2023 when the EU AI Act passed. This mandated strict data sovereignty, meaning companies suddenly had to keep European data physically locked inside European borders. So all these massive US hyperscalers were forced to build locally and fast. By 2025, European IT power capacity surged past 14,000 megawatts, which was 40% higher than anyone forecasted. But the grid support just wasn't there, throwing gasoline on this supply-demand crisis.
Which brings us to the 50 billion euro solution, the Pantheon AI reveal.
So what does the fix actually look like? Well, it looks like 50 billion euros. That's about 58.5 billion US dollars pouring into a 310-acre campus in Hyperscale, Croatia. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't just another server farm, right? This represents the single largest AI infrastructure investment in European history. It's a massive, transatlantic-led initiative designed to single-handedly absorb those heavy AI workloads.
Even government officials are stepping in to highlight the magnitude here. U.S. Special Envoy Joshua Voles framed it perfectly. From the perspective of the project's backers, this is viewed as way more than commercial real estate. It's positioned as a transatlantic geopolitical rescue mission, an effort to ensure that top-tier computing capacity remains firmly anchored in allied, democratic territory.
To really grasp what's happening, we got to demystify the tech standard being used here, the NVIDIA GW-Scale AI Factory. What does that actually mean in plain English? It's basically a massive plug-and-play guarantee. It ensures that the power density, the crazy advanced cooling architectures, the complex networking, it's all hyper-standardized right out of the gate. So tech giants like Meta, Google, or OpenAI can lease the space, roll in their next-gen GPU clusters, and fire them up immediately without wasting a single day on custom engineering.
Moving on to why they chose Croatia. Let's look at this strategic chess piece.
You've really got to wonder, why bypass traditional tech heavyweights like Germany or Ireland for a spot in Hyperscale, Croatia? Because it provides the absolute perfect storm for hyperscale infrastructure. First off, you get incredibly fast regulatory approvals thanks to a special importance designation. Second, you've got massive, raw, expandable land, scaling from 310 up to 450 acres. Add in EU and NATO membership to check those strict data sovereignty boxes, top-tier political backing from the 3Cs initiative, and by 2028, direct access to the Green Mediterranean subsea cables. It is literally a masterclass in geographic strategy.
Now powering a gigawatt monster. Let's talk about renewable innovation at scale.
We all know AI data centers run ridiculously hot and require roughly 10 to 50 times more power per server rack than standard IT. So the energy setup they've designed here is just mind-blowing. They are dropping a 500 megawatt solar farm directly on site, right next to the compute halls. That feeds into a massive 1 gigawatt total capacity site,
Once you strip away the power needed for cooling and operations, you're left with 800 megawatts of pure, unadulterated IT load, ready to train frontier models.
But hey, solar only works when the sun is shining, right? To solve that, they're building an 8,000 megawatt-hour battery storage system. That is 8 gigawatt hours. It is completely absurd in the best way possible, easily making it one of the largest battery installations in all of Europe. And what's really fascinating is how it impacts the locals. This campus isn't just sucking up power, it's designed to pump 5.2 gigawatts of renewable energy back into Croatia's national grid every single year. It's a massive, self-sustaining ecosystem.
Let's crack open the financial anatomy and trace that massive capital deployment.
You don't just drop 50 billion euros overnight. It happens in very deliberate, distinct phases. Phase 1 kicks off in early 2027 with $14 billion just to build out the foundation. The site, the solar arrays, the batteries, the physical building shells. The real explosion in value hits in Phase 2. That's when the hyperscaler tenants finally move in with their insanely expensive computing hardware, those cutting-edge GPU racks. By the time operations fully spin up in Q1 of 2029 for Phase 3, that total capital value skyrockets to that staggering $58.5 billion mark.
When you stack this up against the broader competitive landscape, Pantheon's playbook is wildly different. Microsoft is spending billions on distributed sites in Poland, Amazon is expanding its distributed builds across Madrid and Warsaw, Meta's got a big 500-megawatt campus over in Denmark, but Pantheon, they're putting all their eggs in one massive, concentrated basket, locking an entire gigawatt of power into a single footprint. Finally, let's talk about the next decade of AI and future-casting Europe's compute landscape.
The writing is really on the wall here. Pantheon isn't going to be a one-off event. It's a huge signal that Central and Eastern Europe are rapidly becoming Tier 1 data hubs, and it's being entirely driven by those strict EU sovereignty laws. Analysts actually project those laws will force over $500 billion into localized infrastructure over the next 5 years alone. Plus, slapping a massive renewable energy source directly next to your servers, solar, storage, and compute all in one place, that's becoming the new mandatory standard. Because of projects exactly like this, by 2030, don't be surprised when Croatia is mentioned in the same breath as Amsterdam and Dublin.
So, wrapping up this explainer, when you step back and look at the sheer 50 billion euro scale of the Pantheon campus and the insane density of compute it's going to house, I want to leave you with a thought. Considering the absolutely insatiable power appetite of artificial intelligence right now, is the 1 gigawatt single-site campus no longer just a rare megaproject? Is it actually becoming the new minimum baseline for the entire industry? It's a question that's going to completely redefine global infrastructure. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep your eyes on the grid.